Hey guys, I'm Jillian and you're watching Revitalize from the Inside Out. Thank you for coming. Guys, this is video 1 of my ayahuasca retreat adventure in Peru. So if you haven't already, I recommend that you watch the introduction to this series of videos first so you can be sort of briefed about what I'm talking about and what's happening. So as I mentioned in the introduction to this video series, that last night was my first night of taking ayahuasca. So here we are the next day, and I'm going to tell you, I'm incredibly exhausted and slightly petrified. But overall, it was a very, very substantially beneficial experience. I've got a lot to share with you. So just before we jump in, I'm standing next to some ayahuasca right now. I just want to show you what that is and what this brew or drink that I took last night is made of. So right here, this is ayahuasca. It's quite a luminous glowing green color, and it is a vine. So as you can see or not see, there's a vine inside here, or these leaves are connected to a vine. Yes, it looks relatively innocent. Who would know that it is a very deeply spiritually healing plant, physically healing plant, and mentally healing plant? So all three benefits from this. And I'm standing next to the place where the ceremony was held and will be held for the next several nights. This is called the Maloca. It's quite big. So I actually spent the night in here last night because the medicine overwhelmed me for longer than the ceremony lasted. So when the ceremony was actually announced to be over, I would say the medicine was just kicking in for me. So the ceremony lasted 4 hours. We came in just in here, and there were beds laid out. Beds were laid out in front of all the pictures that you see here. And each person took a spot. We had our water and our flashlights with us and warm blanket, just in case it got cold. But yes, the ceremonies in this very place, I still feel the energy buzzing. So as we entered, we sat down very quietly, and the shaman was sitting just up here. And he was smoking tobacco and preparing the place energetically for our ceremony. So when we sat down and began, we came up and we each took a drink with a certain recommended portion. We started with a lower dose of the medicine to see how it would react, but in actual fact, that was too much of a dose for me based on how intense my experience was. And the medicine tasted so horrible. A lot of people gagged as they took it in, and I just went for it, just chugged it down. But we came in, we sat down, we drank the medicine, and there was 5 minutes of silence, and the shaman began to sing. He was chanting in Spanish. He was chanting all different types of prayers and protective words to keep this a safe place and to encourage our healing process. The healer was here as well. The healer is called Jim, and he was here sort of guiding the process as well and aiding the shaman during the ceremony. Yeah, so guys, I spent the morning writing things down in a journal, and that which I'd like to read to you, because I have a hard time sort of keeping my thoughts really straight about what actually happened last night. But I have to say, as terrifying as it was also equally beneficial, and yeah, definitely worth writing down and sharing. So here we go. I'm reading to you from my journal. The experience last night. When I closed my eyes, a couple of hours of the shaman's singing had passed before I started having visions of different shapes and patterns and colors, all in movement, as if they were cycling in and out of each other. It's like they were moving because of each other, like the cycle of life, things happening because of each other and for each other. These shapes and patterns continued to grow more and more vivid as I kept my eyes closed and relaxed into the bed. It looked like a textured fabric that was alive and seemed to reflect the cycles of life, like I'd said, almost like a machine, where everything was a part of a great big body, alive and operating with purpose. I mean, I could feel all of that, not only just see that, but really feel it. Next, ayahuasca came on stronger, and my body started to fill up with a great ton of energy that represented itself in the form of vibrations, intense vibrations, which grew as the night went on, by the way. I entered another realm, and there, ayahuasca she began removing layers of unnecessary identities. She was throwing them away like sorting through a pile of rubbish. Some of them were easy to discard, and others were harder to remove, and were more deeply rooted in me somehow. It's like some of these were passed down to me through family, generations of family history. And I didn't seem to have a problem with that, but I could see very clearly visions of my identities, my multiple personalities just being thrown away. And I felt like I was becoming a more whole and complete version of myself. Almost like my true self, I could feel. And I was okay with it. I could recognize what was happening right away, and I had no fear at that point, just a little discomfort based on, what was happening for the time being. After removing the identities, the most difficult times started. And it was like a short session of my life was playing on repeat. When I reached a point of stress or pain, I met it with resistance. So what am I talking about here? I saw an image of a circling object that just kept circling and circling against another object that was circling in another direction. And these were just like wheels connected to each other. One would be circling and circling another wheel in another direction, and another in the opposite direction again. And within each of those wheels, there were like teeth, kind of like teeth or chips. And each of them had scenarios of my life, my entire life. And I would sort of walk into one of them, visit them, and I met different aspects of my life. And when I met the painful aspects of my life, things I dealt with that caused me stress and pain, I'd meet that with resistance. And of course, when I did, it caused me even more tension and stress. And I tried desperately to stop the cycle by trying to solve problems. Solve every time. Like, I know the answer. I was anticipating how I can get out of this. It just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And let me tell you, I know that the night was only like 8 hours, and it was an 8-hour experience for me, but it felt like it was days and days and days and days. And I was trying so desperately to stop the cycle by trying to solve the problems of my pain. This is why I was psychoanalyzing everything, and I was wrong every time. It seemed that anything I did, I was always wrong. It seemed I had to accept it and not avoid it or suppress it, just accept it. I felt like I needed to go into it and accept it, and just, it's a part of me. This is what comes in life. Don't run from it. Don't deny it. Don't push it away. Don't try to come up with an altruistic answer. I felt like I needed to go into it in order to discover something else. It's like it was being pushed in my face so that I could become a part of it somehow. It seems to have a strong hold on me in my life in general. These types of pains I was feeling, I could feel the aspects of my life where that played a role. After long last, and believe me, I thought I was going crazy at this point, and that I wouldn't be able to escape this basically kind of psychedelic experience that I was having. I was terrified that I was trapped in there forever and I wasn't coming out. But yes, we finally broke the cycle. I was freezing cold a couple of times, and amazing that because it's like 92 degrees here. And at night, maybe it's like 86, 87, yet I was freezing cold after that. My being cold all the time was a focal point for just a few seconds during ayahuasca, but it didn't last for very long. I saw visions of my mother nurturing people, and I felt from the ayahuasca that I could do a lot more of that, and I maybe needed to do more of that. It was somehow part of the flow of nature and gaining a deep sense of happiness, satisfaction, by just nurturing others, nurturing myself, just finding ways other than just motherly, but to be a nurturer in a way. Yeah, she spoke to me. She, ayahuasca, I call her she because she's like a motherly healing medicine. Stern, direct, clear, and very intense, I can say. I guess I was so nauseous at many points, to be honest, because all the visions were fast moving, fast happening, very intense, and I was so deep it felt like I was in a coma, if you can even feel what that is. I had no connection to my body and reality. It was so strong, I was under so far. For some reason, the subconscious mind was really playing a role in this, I believe. I guess I always wanted to be right. I always wanted to be right. You can ask for anything, and you can help yourself manifest that. I just had so much terror of fear, and when I released myself toward the end of the experience and stopped resisting and relaxed my body, the experience became less painful, less intense, and less traumatizing. My body, meanwhile, when I was pulling in and out of consciousness, I felt vibrations inside and outside of my body, my whole body. Meanwhile, retrieving these visions at the same time. Occasionally, Jim, our healer, would come over and call to me and ask me if I was in there. And his voice was like a guiding light, really. Guided me back to a state of consciousness, a state of understanding that the medicine is healing me, just to trust the medicine. But these sharp, very distinct, very strong visions were quite intense for me, to the point where I didn't feel like walking anywhere in the dark by myself or even sleeping alone. So I stayed in this moloka. But yeah, basically, what was I so terrified about? What are we looking at here? I believe when I went in, I was looking at the world that is myself, the world that is ourselves. If you go pretty deep into that, it can be very seriously traumatizing. I don't believe I'm a horrible person, not at all. It's just there are some things, the habits, false beliefs, and negative attributes that I've picked over just from living. It's what we do. We expose ourselves to the world, and we accumulate good and bad things alike. And we jumped into this tour of darkness, from my understanding, in order to just relieve what's holding me back, what's playing me down in my life, what's making me struggle, at times even with depression. What's going on in there, and why do I feel all this fear all the time, even sometimes anxiety? So my intention that night, one of my intentions when I went in, was to overcome fear and to experience freedom. And I said, hit me hard. Tonight I want to heal. Tonight I'm here for you. I'm here for this. I'm here for myself. I'm ready, so bring it on. Big mistake. However, the outcome was quite rewarding, so I got a lot out of it. We think we are in control of our lives and decisions, but we're running on autopilot built from conditioning. And that's not what I want to do. I don't want to lead my life on autopilot. Many of us might experience doing something like that, and we might want to break the cycle. We might want to steer into a different direction. Free will. What's free will when you're on autopilot? When you've just conditioned yourself over time to do something like that. What's fear? Every time we try to take a new step, make a change, there's an element of fear. Ayahuasca taught me to walk into that. She led me to believe somehow that when you walk into that fear, it's like fear is an illusion, and you walk into it and you just discover this entire new plane of beauty. Something that can be just a gift to you. Beauty and love, ultimately. Move from a place of love, and there you'll find more love. Practice this in your life, and abundance becomes you. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for video 2.